episode number 13 of the Making Moves podcast, where we talk relocating and real estate in the Dominican Republic. I'm your host, Josie Sells DR, and I'm really excited to introduce today's guest. This woman is honestly a huge inspiration to me and many other people that I know personally when it comes to, just following your heart and living fearlessly in the pursuit of just providing the best quality of life for your family. So I couldn't think of a better person to be on this episode. Lacy, you live your best life here, so I'm so excited for you to talk to everybody and just start off by, telling us your story, telling us who you are, where you came from, and how you ended up on the north coast of the Dominican Republic.
Hi, Josie. Thanks for having me. My name is Lacy, and I am the mom of two girls. They are 8.5 and 5.5. And my girls are adopted, and so it's just me and them. I've adopted them by myself, and we've honestly been exploring the world together since 2019, and we've landed here in the DR. So how did it get started? Facebook memories are the best to think about how dreams come to fruition. And I grew up in Las Vegas and had visited Southern California tons and tons of times, and I have probably more than a dozen Facebook posts talking about how someday I'm going to live near the water. Well, here I am. I had no idea how it was going to happen, but so by trade I am a teacher, and in 2019 my family and we set off to China, where I was working at an international school in Beijing. But in 2020, that little tiny virus, COVID, happened, which sent me back to the United States. I didn't really know what to do, so I got a teaching job again and knew by October that I couldn't stay. I mean, we had to go somewhere again. And so one day I just posted on this Facebook World Schooling group about loving the idea of a classroom without walls, and a lady from Cabrera, which is just an hour south of Cabarete, had messaged me and said they were looking for a teacher. And so, but she needed me now. So I, in 6 weeks, got out of my apartment lease, quit my teaching job, sold everything I owned, and sight unseen moved to a little tiny town in the Dominican Republic.
I had no idea you started in Cabrera.
I did. I started in Cabrera. I was there for 6 months.
Okay.
And arrived April 11th, 2000.
That's my birthday.
21.
Yeah.
Cool. 2021, yeah. And so I taught there in Cabrera for a little while, and but what I really want to do is back this up. So when I was in China, we took a trip to the Maldives, and if there's anything you should know about me, I don't travel in luxury. So we found a homestay. We stayed with a local family on a very small island in the Maldives, and while we were there, I kept thinking, what can I do to get a remote job so that I can travel and live by the water and not have to be tied to a teaching job. And so when I was teaching in Cabrera, we had a family that came, enrolled their kids in the school, and the mom happened to open up, was the CEO of a startup company in the United States, an ed tech educational startup company. She just put in my ear one day, hey, if you ever want to leave teaching, we'd love to have you. And so after 6 months of teaching in Cabrera, that's what happened. I called her and asked if I could, if they were still interested. And so we wound up staying in the DR. Well, why did you stay in the DR, Lacy? Well, this is why I stayed in the DR. So with a remote job, you can go anywhere. But my daughter was learning to surf and is quite talented. And so I decided we would, instead of coming every weekend to Cabarete, we should probably just move to Cabarete. So we moved to Cabarete. We've been here, 18 months, a little over 18 months now. And it's been amazing. So my children are in 2 different schools that are absolutely wonderful. My daughter surfs 3 days a week before school. And
both of your daughters surf. First of all, her 5-year-old, literally, I'm out there in the water beside her, and we're both paddling for the same wave, and she just drops in on me, cuts me off, shreds this wave in front of me, and I'm just okay.
It's true. So the 5-year-old surfs too.
They both surf.
Sometimes I don't talk about that because I get a little judged when they see a 5-year-old without a life jacket in the lineup. But
she's confident and she's amazing at it.
She's a great swimmer and really loves surfing. So both of my girls surf, and so that's a synopsis of the story.
That's the next question: is how would you compare the quality of life for you and your daughters in the DR to your previous life in the United States?
There's just, there's really no way to explain it until you experience it. Of course there are things, right? Like there's not a Target down the street. Okay, but because there's not a Target down the street, I don't spend any money buying things I don't need. And I think, Josie, like if I've learned anything over the last 2 years of being in the DR, it's learning like how much we don't actually need.
Oh, I was just talking about this today.
Yeah, we don't need a new pillow because it was cute. We don't need, 18 pairs of shoes to go with 13 different outfits. My kids don't even wear shoes. Like
Same.
They roll to school, they don't wear shoes to school. They never take their shoes to the beach. And it's even like the food, the food here, you have to buy it and eat it because it goes bad within 3 days. Well, why? Because there's no preservatives in the food here. This idea of like eating out for every meal doesn't really exist. And there's not like Uber Eats to just like deliver your food to you every day for 3 meals a day. So you really have to spend more time slowing down, and I have to be with my children more. Not have to, like I enjoy being with my children, but like I get to do all these things now that there was no time for that in the United States.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree. It forces you to just really focus on what you need, and it's not just like, oh, I want this, or I'm bored, so I'm going to go on Amazon for 20 minutes and buy a bunch of stuff that I really don't need.
No.
And so it just kind of puts things into perspective that way.
Mm-hmm.
I was just talking about that this morning. Okay, so take us through a day in your life here.
Well, I think that I will explain that, but I can't explain it without mentioning the value of the village. And I think that's the one thing that keeps me from leaving the DR. So this isn't I'm glad you asked, because on my way to film this podcast with Josie, I was thinking, okay, one daughter's having a play date. The other one needs to be at soccer by 4:30, but I also need to get to the grocery store because we're having friends over for dinner tonight. And I'm just like, oh my gosh, what are we going to do? Like I picked up the phone and called one friend whose kid goes to my same daughter's school, and it was just done. She's like, yeah, sure, I've got 2 other kids coming. I'll take her to soccer practice and bring her home. And it's so different. There's no people are just there to help. I mean, Josie on Sunday offered just randomly, hey, let me take your daughter swimming. And my daughter spent the whole day at a play date. It wasn't prearranged. So anyways, while taking you through a day, sorry, I kind of sidetracked that, but the village is just so critical.
It takes a village.
It does take a village. So I wake up in the morning, I work before my girls get up, do some remote work, and they go to school. So I drop one off at Isla Academy, she's in 3rd grade, and I drop the little one off at pre-K at Encuentro Surf Lodge. Both are outdoors, jungle-based schools, like spending all day in the nature. It's pretty amazing. And then I go, sometimes like I might have a nail appointment or, go grocery shopping, but usually I go home and I work. I work remotely for a US-based
company. Work by
company.
the pool, work outside, work wherever you want.
Actually, this morning I was working while my daughter was at surf lessons. So that's not every day. Some days I get up and take the girls surfing and then school.
Yeah,
Anyways,
don't they surf at like 6 a.m.?
They do,
yeah.
So on surf days I wake up, surf, work at the beach while they're surfing, and then take them to school, come home and work. But I don't really even work in air conditioning. I get to work in my backyard that's full of this kind of scenery. My neighbors will come over, and shout out to my neighbor Kat. She'll come over and drop off food for me because sometimes I don't like to cook, so she'll just bring food over and say, here's some lunch. And then I pick my kids up and take them to soccer or gymnastics. We've got everything here.
Do they do jiu-jitsu?
They're not into jiu-jitsu. I can't get them into it. Yeah.
It's okay.
But we've got everything.
Yeah.
Soccer, dance, gymnastics, aerials, circus, classes, baseball, basketball, softball.
And then the weekend, there's always something going on. There's always someone having a get-together, something on the beach, or a surf competition, or there's always something to do on the weekend.
Always.
It changes every single
And you don't even need a plan for the weekend. I think that's my favorite part is
plan.
I wake up Saturday morning, I go to the beach, drop the girls off for surf lessons, and then someone's like, what are you doing later? And I'll say, I don't know. What are you doing later? They're like, I don't know. Let's grill out. Okay, sounds great. And then next thing you know, 15 people come over.
Yeah.
I think that getting to spend my weekends intentionally on the beach with my feet in the sand, I don't know, I dreamed of that life for my whole life, and now I have it. Yeah.
That's amazing. I love that. So what advice would you give to other parents, and especially like single moms who are considering relocating to the DR?
Just do it.
Advice.
I mean, people think I'm a little crazy, but when I told my best friend, like, I'm moving to the DR, she was like, wait, you're what? You've never even been. And are you going to Punta Cana? I'm like, no, I'm not going to Punta Cana. I'm going to this town called Cabrera. And now I'm in Cabarete. But just do it. I mean, I sold everything I owned except what fit in a few boxes and started over. And the truth is, like, Josie, you know, here, like, no one, it's not a fashion show. So no one really cares what you wear. And it's just...
There's no keeping up with the Joneses.
There's no
here.
keeping up with the Joneses.
Yeah.
Everybody drives for the most part. People drive older cars that aren't great because they're constantly driving to the beach or the roads aren't super great.
Yeah.
So there's no pressure to like have the best and the newest and the greatest stuff. And
yeah.
So yeah, my advice is buy the one-way plane ticket, sell your stuff, and head out.
And I always say, like, when you're moving somewhere like the DR, it's not permanent. Like, some people, you can come here and just have like a beautiful chapter of life, and it doesn't mean that you're stuck here forever. Like, I think people have this mindset that when you do something, that's your fate, that's the end, that's how you're going to spend your life. But if you just come here and experience it, and, you know, if it feels right, you stay, and until it doesn't feel right anymore, or maybe you stay forever, whatever it is, like, coming here, I had that mindset that, okay, this is just a chapter of our life, and, you know, maybe it'll work, maybe it won't, but it's just actually coming here and experiencing it. And I feel like everyone who does come here, we all have so much in common. Like you said, like, we just did it. We booked the one-way flight. We sold all our stuff. Okay, that's exactly what I did too. That's exactly what, you know, 20 other people you're going to talk to here did. So it's like everyone who has come here and has set up a life here, we all have so much in common, and we can really like bond over that.
It is like an immediate friendship. I mean, honestly, because most people, they were leaving wherever, whether it was Canada or the US or the UK or wherever. People were leaving for a reason. They were seeking something different. Most of us were seeking similar things, like a little more freedom with our school choices, freedom to have fresher fruits and vegetables, a more village, sunshine every single day.
Just a
slower pace of life. Yeah. So I think people just bond over that right away.
Absolutely. So as a teacher, because, you know, a lot of people, one of the big questions they have when they have kids and they're wanting to move here is, how is the educational system? And, you know, you're a teacher, so you'd probably be a great person to ask.
Yeah. I mean, the cool part about where we are is there's something for everybody. So I'll just like name drop some schools for people who are curious, and you can do a Google search. We have the International School of Sosua, which is a very traditional international school. It's the typical first grade, second grade, third grade, all the way through senior year. I know their high school program has phenomenal like AP options. Their kids, I want to say, are like 100% college acceptance rate. They all go off to school. So very traditional. They start at age 2. Isla Academy is where my daughter goes, and it is non-traditional. So they also start at age 2 through seniors, but they do like a multi-age program. So it's really more based on what your child needs, not based on their age. It's focused on like learning to learn. So that school is what fits for me. And then there's Encuentro Surf Lodge, which is kind of like I think in the U.S., I don't know about Canada, but we call it more like a daycare probably. They start at age 18 months and go, well, they just announced they're going to be adding older kids. So right now it's 18 months through age 6, and I think they're adding second grade next year. And I cannot say enough good things about that school. Like,
I know.
I don't know, Josie, I just want you guys to understand the affordability of it. So that is a daycare. It's $400 a month for full-time care, and they do an activity every day, whether it's swim lessons, jiu-jitsu class, yoga. My daughter's favorite is yoga, horseback riding, and soccer. And it's included in the tuition. And their food comes from the garden that's literally grown across the street. And
they're barefoot all day.
And they're barefoot all day.
There's no walls.
For $400, like, I paid $1,200 a month for my daughter to go to preschool, and it didn't include any activities. And she was inside a building all day long. So then we have the European school. It's a little bit more traditional. It's based more on a European model. We've got a couple of bilingual schools. What's the one that's next across the street?
Across the street?
From ISS. Anyway,
Greenwood.
Oh, Greenwood is very non-traditional.
Yeah.
Greenwood is really it's a great hybrid for homeschoolers.
Yeah.
And then there's
school.
Yeah. Then there's another school, I can't think of the name of it, but it's a bilingual school that many parents send their children to because they want them to be fully bilingual in English and Spanish.
But how amazing is that you have
all these
choice.
Options?
You have the choice.
All the options.
It's not there's one public school system or one private school system or homeschooling. It's like you can quite literally hand select the level of education and the type of education your kids are getting.
Yeah, and nothing's far. I mean, like from one end of town to the other, and town's probably less than 8 miles, so nothing is like super far. And like I chose to have my kids in 2 different schools. They both had different needs, so I have the luxury of doing that. And in terms of like tuition, I think it's important for viewers to understand private school tuition here doesn't even compare to the cost of private school tuition anywhere in the United States. So it's affordable. I mean, I'm a single mom working remotely, and I consider it to be affordable.
Awesome. Okay, what was your yes moment? Because every person I've talked to who has moved here, it's like they had this one moment where they were doing something and it was like, yes, this is where I'm supposed to be. This feels right.
It's funny you say that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think what led me to post the post.
What post?
The post on the Facebook page about like I'm dreaming of a school is I was walking my first graders back from music class, and this crazy bug, we were in Houston, Texas, this crazy bug fell from the sky, or not the sky, but like a tree. And the kids were like really interested in the bug. But I was like, we have to go. Like math is whatever. And my principal would be wondering where we were at. And I remember going home feeling so sad, Josie, because do you know what, like all the things the kids could have learned from that bug, bringing that bug back inside and letting them explore the bug, and we couldn't. And it was that moment that I'm like, I have to get out of this system. I have to. And then when, this is actually kind of funny. So when I interviewed for the position for the school in Cabrera, and she said she needed me like right away, I was like, well, I'm in a teaching contract. Like I can't get out of my teaching contract. That was a Friday. And over the weekend I thought,
yes, I can.
well, can I? Like, why can't teachers leave in the middle of the school year? So I went to my principal and said, blah, 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 I'd like to leave. Like, and she said, I knew you weren't going to stay. You're a wandering soul and you have my blessings. And so it was like when she said that to me, I mean, I went home, started listing everything. That was my aha moment, really. Those 2 things, like the bug and then my principal saying, yes, you can leave. I mean, within a week's time, 2 weeks' time, I had everything sold, an airplane ticket spot, and we left exactly 6 weeks later.
Did you have a moment here that was like confirmed for you that this is where you want to be? Like, was there one moment where you're just like, I'm never leaving?
You know, I think so Isla does every 6 weeks they have a parent presentation day so the kids can present everything they've learned. And I think every single time I go to one of those, I'm not an emotional person, like at all. Tears well up in my eyes. Aww. And I think it's because when I see my daughter Cora, she's the one that's 8.5, like, I don't know, just like talking in front of people and presenting what she's learned, and to see how far like her reading levels have jumped, like 4 reading levels. And when I ask her, how did that happen so fast? She's like, Mommy, because I'm comfortable and I feel safe at my school. I think those are my moments. Like I never worry about them getting injured or shot at school. I don't worry about
bullying even is like not a thing here.
Not really. Like kids don't really do social media here like they do in the States. Like it's just, those are my moments when I'm at the school and seeing how happy my children are.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
For me, it was at Christmas. They made us Christmas cards at school. And oh my gosh, I remember Hendrix brought me the card on Christmas morning, and all it said, I opened up this card and all it said was, Dear Mom, Merry Christmas. Thank you for letting me be free. And I was like,
oh, I just got chills.
I was like, what?
Yeah.
And I asked his teacher, like after the Christmas break, I asked her, I'm like, did you tell him to say that? Like, did you just write that for him? And she's like, no, we just wrote down one thing that they wanted us to put in their card, and that's what he said. And I was like, oh,
you know, Josie, like,
melt me.
I think it's because, it's not that funny, but like I say my children are feral now because when we go to the United States, they don't know how to behave. They don't know how to sit in.
You cannot go, if you were raised on an island, you cannot go sit at Olive Garden. You can't. You just can't. You don't know how.
I can't. We went to Cheesecake. I went back to the U.S. for the first time in over a year, like 3 weeks ago, maybe 4 weeks ago now. I went to Cheesecake Factory and my sister said, oh, inside or outside? I was like, outside. And she was like, why so fast? I'm like, outside. Trust me on this. But I mean, we laugh about it, but I would have it no other way because of exactly what Hendrix said. Thanks for letting me be free. And I think there's something really powerful about kids. Like our restaurants here,
They're on the beach.
they are on the beach, and there are no walls. Like there's not one single restaurant anywhere in our town that has 4 walls.
Yeah.
Everything is open to the elements, which means kids can run and just be free.
so
And
nice.
Dominicans, they love children in a way that I actually don't have words to explain. Like there's never been a time that I had like a whole arm of groceries and a crying child that someone didn't swoop in and ask like, oh, let me help you or let me hold your baby. Kids are like loud and celebrated here, and it's beautiful. Yeah.
It is. Okay. I think we answered all the questions I wanted to ask you, but I did open up just a few questions from my Instagram. So I just want to see what people are asking on there quickly. Okay. Do you feel the healthcare is sufficient here?
Here's the thing about healthcare. We're 2.5 hours from Florida. So if something were to go crazy wrong, crazy car accident, something along these lines, there's a helicopter ride that's 30 minutes away, or I guess an hour away for a helicopter. In terms of general healthcare, I mean, this week alone, Josie, my daughter was having this crazy headache situation for like days, and it freaked me out. So I like took her to the doctor, found a neurologist, and we went in, we saw the neurologist, we had a CT scan, and it was like Grey's Anatomy. It was so crazy. He was like watching the CT scan with me as it was happening. I was like, oh, this is cool. Got the blood work done, and it was all of that without insurance was $200, and we had answers. The CT was clear, but we had answers within, I don't know, an hour. That would never happen in the United States.
What do you pay? Do you have healthcare coverage? No, you don't. But you paid $200.
But if I did, it's a little less than $100 a month for the 3 of us to have healthcare coverage. I just haven't pulled the plug.
Yeah. Same.
Yeah.
Awesome. Okay. Is there a lot of poverty where you are?
I love this question.
too.
I love it as much as I hate it, but poverty is such a, yeah. Are there people who live well below the standards that like I probably live or had in the United States? 100%. What is the difference? There are no homeless people because Dominican folks take care of their people. There is no, like where we are, there's no hunger. Like, I guess I can't say, that's not fair for me to say that, but like people in general have food.
You really don't, like, what I have noticed is that you don't, like, I've been to Cambodia, I've been to Laos, I've been to even
All
parts
over.
of Mexico where it's like you walk the streets and there are people who are quite literally homeless on the streets begging
No, not
for
here.
money. And you do not see that here. Like, Dominicans are hustlers. If they have something they can sell,
They
will sell it to you.
But
Like,
I also think it's just a change of perspective. Like,
Yes.
I remember going to a friend's home here, and I was like, oh wow, like the shower's like sort of outside with rain barrel collected water, and thinking like how the 5-year ago Lacy would have been like, oh my God. And the new Lacy, the present Lacy that's in the DR is like, that's so cool how resourceful, and Dominican folks are just so happy. And like, Josie, you've probably had experiences. Food is the way to the soul. And it doesn't matter whose home you go into, Dominican people make sure you're fed. So when you talk about poverty, I mean, I don't know. Yes, there are people who live well below what you're probably used to living, but that, I think the definition of poverty is,
yeah,
it's-
but I think it's also good to go to those areas, like, not, I don't want to say poverty areas, but just areas where people live less than you would typically see. It's amazing to just go there.
But happy.
Yes, but it's amazing to just go there and be like, this is part of this country and these people are still thriving and they're happy, and it's like a beautiful thing for us to see and also for our kids to see, I think. Just that, we're blessed.
yeah, it's not about being, oh, blah, blah, they're so sad. No, it's just like, that's the culture and it's amazing, and folks are happy. Like,
Yeah, totally. Okay, last question. Okay, this is good. Have you ever felt unsafe walking in town or on the beach alone?
not a chance.
Yeah.
No, I mean, I don't make stupid choices like walking through a dark alley by myself, like I wouldn't do anywhere, but no.
Yeah, me neither.
No.
I haven't either. Okay, I'm just gonna make sure there's no more questions on here. I think that's it. I think we're good. Okay. Anything else you want to say, Lacy?
I just want to go back to that beach question really fast, actually.
What beach question?
About feeling safe. I should not admit this, but one time I left the beach and I thought another friend took Henley, and then I called her. I'm like, you've got Henley, right? She's like, no, I don't have Henley. I'm like, well, I don't have Henley. And I had left. I left the beach. Like, I was already down the road. And I'm like, oh my gosh, we have to turn around and get my kid. And I'm like sort of panicked because at this time she's only 4 and she's just on the beach by herself. So I know. I turned around, I went all the way back, and she's just happily playing on the swing set with some other friends and families. And I was in a complete panic, and the little, like, we have security guards sort of everywhere, and they're like, ¿Qué pasó? ¿Qué pasó? And I was like explaining, I left my daughter in Spanish, and they were like, we know who your daughter is. We would never let her leave with somebody that wasn't like someone else we knew. And I was like, you know my daughter? And they're like, of course we know your daughter. And I think that's the beauty. It's like, it's so small that people know who's who and who should be with who. And it was a moment. Anyways, all was well. She's home still. So
you found her?
Found her.
I think we've all done that a time or two, or we just like left our child somewhere.
Whoops.
Accidentally. Anyways, okay, that's it. That's a wrap. Thank you so much for being here. It was amazing to hear your story. Like I said, I didn't actually know your full story before sitting down with you, which is always cool to hear it in full detail. But thank you guys so much for watching. If you got value from this episode, please share it, like and subscribe, and follow me on all social media platforms. Yes.
You can follow my single mom adventures around the world at Surfing Our Best Life on Instagram.
Surfing Our Best Life.
Surfing Our Best Life.
Throw that in the description. Awesome. Thank you guys. See you in the next episode.